Yo everyone, Aiden here, welcome back to Dark Souls Remastered. Last time out we started off our build, we picked up a class being the Pyromancer and set off on our journey here through Lordran to ring the bells of awakening. So we made our way up through the Undead Burg after jumping through Firelink Shrine and grabbing a couple of nice items to get ourselves started off good, and we eventually settled here at this first bonfire. Today we're going to have a little look around the Undead Burg. There's some NPCs to meet. Some are merchants, some are not. You'll see as we go on. We have a boss to defeat just up there on the rampart parts. Rampart parts is a weird thing to say, but up there. And then we're going to move on and get the weapon that we're going to be using for the rest of this playthrough. So, start off here, just clearing this area out. We have a better shield now as well, of course, because we opened up that door in the last episode, so I was glad we did that. And then we'll carry on and get over this bridge there to get to the shielded enemies we looked at in the last episode. You'll remember towards the end of the last episode as well, I was talking about roll speeds and how we could use equip load and things like that to change the way that we roll. And we couldn't really get a good demonstration of it because we actually didn't have enough heavy items. So I had a little look into it to double check before I go over here. And it seems that between 0 and 25% of your equip load will give you the fastest roll. Between 25 and 50% will give you the medium roll, which is probably what you'll run with for the vast majority of the game. And then lastly, if you're over 50%, you'll do the heavy roll, which we'll be able to kind of showcase maybe later on in this episode. If you go over 100% of your equip load, you won't be able to roll at all. So keep that in mind. I'd say heavy roll and not being able to roll at all will get you killed more often than not, so try not to be in that position if you can. That being said though, you know, I'm not too sure, I've never really tried it out myself. If anyone knows of anything, any sort of builds that really function well with heavy rolling or no rolling at all, I'd be keen to see what those look like. So if anyone knows of any, feel free to put them down in the comments, maybe we'll check them out. So we've got these shielded guys now to deal with. They're a little bit different from the enemies we've faced so far. A little bit intelligent as well, knocking down that barricade. So there's two ways to deal with these guys really. The first thing you can do is kind of try and bait their attacks, and whenever they open themselves up, try and get into a position where you can hurt them. So we'll see if we can do that with this guy here. As you can see, he'll just lean in, and that'll give you a chance to dip in and get some attacks. Now that can be easy if there's just the one of them, but of course over here there was two, so you might need to work on your spacing and really getting an understanding of how these guys attack. The second way you can do it is, we're not going to jump in here, is to use the kick attack. So for me, on the PlayStation 4, the kick attack is a combination of R1, the fast attack button, and forward at the exact same time. He was getting a little bit cheeky there. So whatever platform you're playing on, it's the same thing. It's your fast attack button and moving forward at the same time. So we'll see if we can kick this guy and get you a little demonstration of that. Knock the shield away. Same thing. Knock them down. So there's a couple of ways you can deal with those guys, and they're not too difficult. Later on in the game you won't really be using this technique too much, just because these guys kind of disappear after this area, but later on in the game similar soldier type enemies will appear again, so it's maybe good to keep that in mind. Through here is where we're going to head next, but just to make sure we don't get ambushed in any sense, I'd say come over here. There's a little guy hiding behind this stack of plates, and we're just going to straight up kill him. Check something here. Nope. So that's a big thing in Dark Souls, in all the series, but in Dark Souls 1 especially. Your attacks will not go through walls. Enemies' attacks, particularly heavy attacks, definitely will go through walls. So keep an eye out for that. This guy here is a merchant. He's an undead merchant. And you can see he's got a weird affinity for his basket there. He keeps rubbing it. Well, that's because there's something else to do with that, and we're going to check that out just quickly. Well, you seem to have your thing. I trade. So he says he'll trade anything for sales if you talk to him. So he'll talk to you about this, a goat demon below, and another demon up above. We kind of skipped that one there, but those are the two bosses that really populate the burg, and something we'll kind of look into later on in this episode, and then probably a later episode as well, much later, because the other end of the Undead Burg with the goat demon is horrible, so we'll try and avoid that if we can. Let's see, keep talking. No, so he's not going to mention it. That's fine. So what he's got on him is mostly just, as you'd imagine, some starting out items that you might not really need. Repair powder is not so much a big deal in this game. It's more important, definitely in Dark Souls 2. Not, well, maybe a little bit in Dark Souls 3, but pretty much pointless in this game if you ask me. Throwing knives can be useful for certain points in the game later on. We'll maybe need a few of those, but not right now. Fire bombs are to your liking. If you need them, get them, but there's some enemies just up ahead, as you can hear. They might drop those, so I wouldn't really worry too much about those. Lloyd's talismans are good for mimics, and also if you're planning to fight a lot of people online, which we're hopefully not. Dried finger I'm not too sure if you can actually get that somewhere else. That's a good thing I might need to look into. But Dried Finger makes it easier for your world to be invaded by other players, I believe. So if you want to look for a lot more PvP, then maybe buy the Dried Finger. I don't believe it's a one-time use item either. I think it's like a key item that you can reuse over and over again. So if you're planning to do a lot of PvP, perhaps pick up the Dried Finger. And the Orange Guidance Soapstone is for leaving those messages behind me, as you can see. We're going to buy that. I don't really think you need to buy it here, but we might as well get it. But what we really do want is this here, this Residence Key. Well, the Master Key can open pretty much every door in this game. It can't actually open every door. There is some doors that still require keys. And this door that you need the Residence Key for is one of them. So we're going to buy that Residence Key off him. And left here is the Repair Box and the Bottomless Box, both which I believe you can buy off another merchant later in the game. So we don't need to really worry about those. If you want to change up your weapon and try something a little bit different, the clubs and reinforced clubs are actually not too bad starting weapon, especially if you're going primarily for strength build. The Rapier is okay for dexterity, but you probably want the S-Stock that we picked up in the first episode rather than the Rapier. Scimitar is kind of similar. Dagger, short sword, they're all starting weapons. They all actually are the starting weapons. I think that a lot of the classes start with. So I wouldn't worry too much. You probably already have something like that. You can buy a bow if you don't already have one. But bows and crossbows aren't very important in this game, so I wouldn't worry too much about those. And another kind of shield. The buckler is an interesting one. It makes it much easier to parry enemies. If you're just starting out and playing this game for the first time, you might not want to try parrying too often. But if it's something you want to look into, then the buckler is going to make that a lot easier. So you can maybe look into that. The heater shield, I believe, adds 100 physical resist, which is very important. We're going to get 100 physical resist shield at some point in the game. But the quicker you can get one, the better. So you can save up and try and buy one off of this guy if you want. Here's where you can buy some arrows. And finally, you get the sort of starting armor for, I believe, if there is a knight class in this, then it will be that. It's just the chain. But we don't really need any of that stuff. And the reason I'm talking about not really needing any of it as if we're never going to talk to this guy again is because we're not going to talk to this guy again, because we're actually going to murder him here on the spot. So you can't really see what he's touching there, but we'll go over that in a moment once we kill him. So you see now he's talking to something called Yulia. And does he say? Yeah, he says little Yulia there. And he actually dropped the Dried Finger for us, so it's not really much of an issue. Don't buy the Dried Finger off him for 2,000 souls, because you can just kill him and take it. And if we pillage his body, we actually get the Uchi Katana. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So there's a lot of discussion now and again, I think, about what Yulia actually is. You know, he seems to be petting something in that bucket beside him that we couldn't really see. And I think general consensus is that it's the sword. He's actually touching the Uchi Katana. And perhaps the Uchi Katana is what he's calling Yulia. Maybe it was a former family member that felt the curse and now he's just living on through the sword, but it seems to be general consensus is Yulia is what he's calling the katana. Heading down here, there isn't much point. I'm just going to show you guys what it looks like once we kill this guy. I'm going to head up this ladder. The Uchi Katana, by the way, the reason I wanted to pick that up was just to provide an option for those of you who might want to use dexterity builds. Dexterity, I don't really think is a massive deal in this game. I would probably stick to either quality or strength. Quality is what we're going to kind of run with, and I'll explain that a little bit more in detail when we get further on. But essentially, if you want to do a dexterity build, you could pick worse early on in the Uchi Katana. It's a pretty good starting sort of point for that, and it upgrades pretty well as well. So that's a little option for you if you want to do that. And of course, there's always the allure of playing as a samurai in any game, so that's absolutely fine. Right here, you can try and make this jump. So there's an upper floor that we couldn't get to from that bottom way, and the only way to make it is to make this jump across. Now, jumping in this game is a pain for me. I'm not very good at it. I'm going to just practice here. There we go. I'm not actually going to make that jump over there because I think it'd just be a bit of a waste of time for us. But basically, what you're going to find over there if you make that jump is a crossbow and some bolts. And as I've already mentioned a little bit earlier on, I think bows and crossbows in this game are next to useless, so I'm not going to waste our time by jumping over there and grabbing it. But if you want it, that's the easiest way to get it. You just have to jump over that gap and practice your jumping. It's probably better if you clear all the enemies out from underneath as well, so you don't have to deal with them if you miss the jump and fall down. For us though, we're going to carry on in our adventure now. We're going to head on further up the Undead Burg and see what's going on, and see if we can find out a little bit more about this other demon that's living on top of the ramparts, as was mentioned by our friend that we just killed there. Would you call him a friend if we just killed him? I suppose maybe not. But So these guys aren't too much of a big deal. The bigger deal comes from the armoured guy who sneaks in at the back there. You want to really hope he goes for that thrust attack. That's probably the best thing he can do. He sort of opens himself up a little bit for it. On that one there where he swiped and missed, he was going for a second swipe. He will swipe down and then come back up the way, so if you're not fast enough he will catch you on that. I should have paid a little bit more attention, but that could have been pretty painful for us. Kill this guy. Staggered them there. So staggering is another thing we haven't really talked about. Every enemy sort of has a stamina bar themselves. And again, I think it really comes into play a little bit later in the series, not so much in this game. But you can work the same way. If you have certain heavy weapons and heavy armour, you can tank through attacks and not be staggered, much the way enemies can as well. And it's called poise, and we'll go into that a little bit later whenever we're maybe dealing with more complex armour and weapons than we are right now. But you can see up above, this guy's going to ambush you by the way. You can see up above there's guys throwing firebombs down on us. Now if we keep to the path that we're going on, that shouldn't really become an issue if we stay out of their way. But if we need to go up there, we'll go up there. Some black firebombs here if you didn't start with them and use them on the Asylum Demon. Then you can get them here, or you can get some more here if you did start with them and have held onto them. Up here is going to be a little bit of an ambush. You see there's 3 guys here. These 2 guys will make a move towards you, 2 at the back. Like this. And the guy at the front here is being a little bit slower, a little bit more ominous, and that's because he is a firebomb user. And you don't want to mess with that. Whoa. Don't think so, brother. We'll get him down. So if you want to take on those firebomb guys who are raining hell down on us, you can use that ladder to go up. I believe there's some firebombs or something up there. But it's nothing massive of note that you're really going to need. I'm going to pop an Estus flask, and thanks to the master key, or the residence key even. Maybe that's a change. I don't remember the residence key opening that in the original game. But okay, we're going to open this. And we'll get some gold pine resin. So gold pine resin adds lightning damage to your weapon for a certain amount of time. It can be useful for certain enemies and bosses, and in fact it's going to be coming in pretty useful as we move on to the first boss here. You want to kill this guy, because if you head down that ramp to start fighting those enemies down the hill, then this guy's going to start sniping you in the back with that crossbow. And unlike us using a crossbow, he's actually pretty accurate and deadly with it, so don't want to mess about with that. 3 armoured guys here. The key is just to take your time to draw them all out one by one. Like so. Don't think we're really drawing them out one at a time here. Nope, they're moving 2 together, but one's got a spear and he's a technically, you know, much slower version of that enemy. That's another thing that you should maybe be aware of, and why a lot of people always talk about don't mash the attack button in Dark Souls, is because we kind of queued up attacks there. I was out of stamina, I basically had barely any stamina left to launch one more attack, but because I'd already pressed the attack button, it forced me into it, and the enemy pretty easily defended it. In that situation, you can be pretty easily countered and killed, so you kind of don't want to get yourself into those situations. Going to try and beat this guy attack, and we'll do a backstab on him. That's another way to deal with those enemies, and pretty much any enemy in the game. If you can sneak around the back of them and get a little backstab on them, then you're going to do significantly higher damage and get them out of your way faster than usual. Down here is going to lead us to a pretty particularly powerful enemy. Just trying to see if we can see him without aggroing him. There he is, he's a Black Knight. He's got his back to us, which would hint that we could potentially backstab him. And at this point in the game, backstabs or being a parry god is pretty much the only way you're really going to take him out easily. He's a very difficult enemy, and behind him there is an item called the Blue Tearstone Ring, which we'll talk about a little bit here. Just want to get this out of the way. As you start heading up these stairs, this guy's going to kick this barrel down. That will probably kill you at this point in the game. You really don't want to get hit by that. Sometimes he'll kill himself with a kick. This time he didn't, so we're going to have to kill him. She'll deal with no problem. Yep, the Blue Tearstone Ring behind that enemy there is a type of item in which, if you're at a low level of health, like I think it's something like 20% or less health, you'll receive a defense boost, which can be helpful in some situations, but I find that if you're below 20% health, then a defense boost isn't really going to stop you getting killed in one hit anyway, most of the time. So I don't really find it that useful, and that's why I don't think we should really go for it. Later in the game, or depending if you want to do a kind of suicide speed run at the beginning, like we did with the Firekeeper Soul, you can get the attack version, the Red Tearstone Ring, which means if you're below 20% HP, then you get a pretty serious attack boost, and that can be very useful in certain sort of glass cannon builds that a lot of people use to take out bosses very quickly. There's some really interesting videos on YouTube and everywhere else just kind of showcasing that. We're going to head up the stairs here, that's where we've got to go next, but what we can do, thanks to the master key, is open this door. So what you're meant to do is continue through the game and get to the actual bottom of this tower and come in the bottom of the tower and work your way back up and open up into here. But thanks to the master key, we don't need to do that. We can start at the top and go down. This gives you a sort of alternative route into the forest area at the bottom. However, it is guarded by a seriously powerful enemy. As you can tell by the bloodstains right here, the people have died. It goes down quite a bit. And he actually has a very, very powerful ring on him, which is something we could maybe make use of later in the game. But because of our low damage and the point that he could one-shot us right now, I don't really see why we should go down there and risk a death this early on. Smashing through these, I think it might be the floor up. It definitely is. It's where you'll come across your first crystal lizard of the game. And crystal lizards are good because they drop pretty rare materials. Here he is. And what I do, drop an attack on him. You'll give us 2 Twinkle and Titanite and Titanite chunks. So Twinkle and Titanite is used primarily for upgrading unique weapons. Not necessarily boss weapons, I don't think, but perhaps boss weapons. I will double check that. But you'll get the Black Knights, for instance, they all drop their own weapons. They drop the Black Knight sword, the Great Sword, halberd, and all of those get upgraded using Twinkle and Titanite as opposed to normal Titanite. The Titanite chunk is something you're going to use to do one of the final upgrades to something. So a final upgrade takes a Titanite slab, but before that comes chunks, before that comes large shards, and at the very base you get standard shards. Walking through here is going to take us into a very ominous looking area, which, as you can probably tell, is a boss arena. So it's pretty interesting from the point of view. As you can see, it's very narrow, and the boss is going to make use of that. He has big, large, sweeping attacks that can easily knock us off. As you can see, there's some broken bits on the left-hand side there, and you can be knocked off in one shot. Hopefully, we will try and avoid that happening to us. But yeah, so this area really works in the boss's favour. There are some, would you call it a glitch, or maybe just an exploit? Probably an exploit, because it's not breaking the game in any fashion. It's just a weird thing that happens sometimes, where if you play it right, you can't actually get the boss to fall off the edge. I'm not very good at it. We're not going to try that today. We're just going to try and beat him legitimately. But what we can do here is, before we take any steps forward, you can see there's that broken rampart sort of edge up there. That's where the boss is going to come down from once the fight begins. And behind us, we also have one with a ladder. So that's going to give us a few advantages, but also one big disadvantage at the moment, because there's enemies up there who are going to shoot us in the back once you start this fight. So we're going to go up here and kill them. You're there. Thought they were slick. I'm a bit concerned that we're taking 4 hits to take these guys down. It seems like quite a lot. There's that second swing, as you can see there, and he falls up at the end with a thrust, but the thrust is actually pretty punishable. They do take quite a long time to get that out, so you probably could land an attack. We're going to put our good friend, the gold pine resin, on. I'm going to pop the black fire bombs on just in case we really need a backup, but because this enemy is a demon, I believe they are quite resistant to things like that. I've got, of course, their pyromancy flame on as well to use fireball. So I don't really know if those kind of attacks will work, but we're going to check it. So what we're going to do here is equip the gold pine resin, and we're going to bait the boss out. So you kind of want to watch. And as soon as you see him appear, now we're sprinting all the way back to this ladder. And I'm sure you can guess why. Put the resin on, and we hit him with a plunging attack. So you really don't want to get caught underneath him like that. And that was actually a lot easier than I anticipated it would be. I've died in that fight a few more times than I probably want to admit. But do you know what? That actually went pretty easy. As you can see, you can drag him back, jump up there, pop your resin, drop down and give him a plunging attack, and then just start hacking away with your resin infused weapon. Pretty easy to do. He has a sort of slam attack, sweeping attacks. You really just want to get a hit on him. You'll probably land about here. Try and get him to either do a slam or try and do his jump back and create some space to maybe stick against these and get ready to roll out of the way of these attacks. Not too difficult if you use the method I just showed you there, in conjunction with, of course, fire bombs, and also fireball spell from your pyromancy flame. You shouldn't be too difficult, and you'll be absolutely fine. So we've got an extra 3,000 souls to make use of, but the problem now, of course, is trying to get to a bonfire to use them. And there's going to be a few things trying to get in our way for that. So if you destroy this, I believe there's an item. Or Silver Lost Undead. We're going to heal up. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference if we mess this next part up. I think it's a one shot either way. But we'll try and make sure that isn't the case. That's where we're headed to next, but there's some telling signs that things aren't what they seem. But right now, we're going to pop down here and meet one of the most resplendent and incandescent NPCs in all of video games. This is Solaire. He's a sunlight warrior, I think they're called. And he's going to give you your sort of introduction in the co-op. So I am going to sadly skip all of his dialogue and just get to the choices. But he basically gives you an explanation for why co-op works within the universe. He says universes and time are all meshed together, and that's why warriors from other times and places can appear. But it's just a sort of in-universe explanation for why you can co-op and invade and things like that. But we just keep saying yes, being nice to him, and eventually gives us this white sign soapstone. So what that lets you do is it lets you put your sign down outside boss rooms, or anywhere in the game, to allow people to sort of summon you in to co-op with them. Which is always a good thing, and also allows you to summon people too. So Solaire in himself is on a personal quest to find his own personal sun. So he's always talking about trying to find something and become as great as the sun is. So we'll see him a little bit more as we go through our playthrough. Don't worry about it, Solaire's a good guy, he's one of the few guys in the world of Lordran which you can actually trust. And we'll see how his quest develops. This is another door that does not open with the master key. It's something we hopefully don't really need to deal with, at least not for the next wee while. We're going to head across this bridge, but as you can see there's some scorch marks up ahead and some dead bodies which have also been burned to a crisp. And if you remember when we first entered the burg a wee while ago, there was a particularly angry dragon on the loose. There he is. So don't stop here, run all the way down the stairs, because that fire can come all the way out. And it probably will one-shot you, and you'll feel like you've wasted all the souls you just got. I'd say stick here to the right-hand side until you get to this little in bit. And you can hear when that dragon starts to roar, there's a chance he's going to actually fire off with his fire. So you don't want to get caught up in that. Do not drop down any further, kick this ladder, and you opened up your first big shortcut in the game. And we're going to slide on down. Don't know if you can slide in this game, can you? No, you can't. Oh well, we're going to slowly descend. So we're going to level up here. I'm trying to think what the best thing to do is. I can't quite remember what we need. I'm going to go 14, 12, just to be sure. We get one more in there, so we should probably put up our HP to give us a little bit more survivability. And I'm going to show you a couple of different things we can do right now. When we head back up here, there's a couple of ways there's a way to farm souls effectively early on. What you can do is where are we going? You can go up here and beat the dragon into breathing fire and head back down. There you go, you got about 555 souls there, and all you need to do is go back down to that bonfire. It'll respawn all the skeletons, so you can come back up, bait the fire again, get 500 souls, hit the bonfire, respawn everything. And you can do that for as long as you want if you want to get some early levels done. But we're not really going to do that. The correct way to move forward, if you're playing it normally, is to come under here. Sneak under the dragon. There's some enemies hiding at the other end of this bridge, and then there's a sort of tunnel, which you can see down there, which is where you're meant to head. That's the proper way to proceed. Another thing you can do is, the one time a bow is actually useful in this game, is you can bring a bow here and shoot the dragon's tail. If you break this dragon's tail off, you're going to get a weapon called the Drake sword, which is very powerful for here in the Undead Burg, but it seems to die off really, really quickly. Its power really sort of becomes irrelevant after the first area or two of the game. So I wouldn't really recommend relying on it for a sort of easy mode, although some people do, and that's absolutely fine. I will do another video at some point showing you how to actually obtain it using a bow and the kind of power it can give you early on in the game. But you'll notice very quickly when you get to a later Bell of Awakening and things like that, that it's actually going to taper off very, very fast, and you'll need to go back to making your own build. And if you've not really built your character correctly by that time, it can create some kind of issues. So that's why I would say don't rely on the Drake sword. However, for us, we're not even going to go under this way. We're going to go another way, a sneaky way that allows us to get what we want. So we are going to run in here and against this wall. Just keep holding it. And eventually the dragon's going to get pretty pissed off and come down and square go us. Come on. Here we go. And you just want to run by him. There is no realistic way you're going to kick his ass at this point in the game, so I wouldn't really bother. Just run, and hit this bonfire as fast as you can. Now that we've done that, the dragon disappears. So the dragon's gone, and we can get him to come back again by going to the end of the bridge where we started the last time. That'll bring him back out, and he'll do everything again if you want to bring him back and you want to try and get the Drake sword or want to try and fight him legitimately, which is something we can do later on. Right here, there's some basic hollows that go down in 2 shots. They give you, what, 20 souls each, not really worth as a sort of farming source, but that's fine. Right here, can't see it because of all the read message stuff, but this is the Sunlight Warrior Covenant stone. You can't really make it out because it's been broken, which is a shame, but that's really what it's there for. And in order to join the Sunlight Warriors, I believe you need 30 faith or 25 faith, somewhere about that region. However, for each boss you've defeated as a co-op partner, that requirement goes down by 5, I believe. So it kind of encourages you to co-op. And what happens is, if you join the Sunlight Warriors, you get a good miracle called Lightning Spear, but you also get a different sort of summoning sign that makes you glow orange, instead of white. And you'll see that later on because we're actually going to be using Solaire at a later point. We're going to crack this. Again, this is not really what you're meant to be able to do early on, but this is going to open this up so we have a much shorter run to the cathedral. And then the last thing we're going to do today is tool up. So, I think I'm being a bit silly here when I could just pop fireball on these guys. Yeah, there we go. Much easier. Don't really like this guy getting easy shots on me, so I'm going to try and hide. I don't really like him moving that far back as well, because I don't know when the dragon's going to spawn back in. So screw that guy, and pick up the Claymore. So Claymore is going to be what we're relying on for the vast majority of this game. It's going to be our weapon. So, do we have the stats for the Claymore? It's 16 and 10, I thought it was 14 and 12. Okay, well, it seems like a good time to introduce a mechanic where, if you can't one-hand a weapon, if you're close enough to the stats, I think you might need to have like 0.75 of the stats or something, I'll double check that. You can still two-hand it, but we don't want to two-hand it, we want to one-hand it, and that's fine, because we're going to one-hand it. Because we have a bunch of souls to pop. So as you can see, most weapons in the game either fall into a category where you need to have high strength or high dex, or maybe some intelligence or faith to run them. But there's a fair few weapons that also fall into the area of having them sort of balanced out, strength and dex, and those are known as quality weapons. So when we talk about quality, we talk about having an almost even level of strength and dexterity to wield a weapon. So we're going to put our 2 points in so we can one-hand the Claymore. And now, let's see, if I immediately come out here, you can see already the damage is way better if I can hit. Being a bit reckless. The Claymore's going to be our bro for this playthrough. It's got some nice big swings. The sprinting R1 is very, very good, as you can see here. I love that attack. Very, very good if you're dealing with quite a few enemies in a closed area. The R2 in this game, I'm so familiar with the Dark Souls 2 Claymore, is the R2 in this game a thrust? Yes it is. Nice. Okay, double checking that there. In Dark Souls 2 again, the double R2 is a thrust and spin, and this is a thrust and a big swing up the way. But that's fine, that's us now got the Claymore, that's what we are going to be relying on for the rest of this playthrough here. If you do two-hand it, it's just big swings. Whoa. pretty good. It's going to be a really reliable weapon for us. We're really going to come to love it as we get through our playthrough. The next time we pick up this game, we will be moving on forward through here, through the rest of the Undead Burg, up towards the cathedral. Once we get to the cathedral, we're going to meet another merchant, who's our main blacksmith for the game. One of the most important bonfires in the game, if I do say so myself. A couple of shortcuts back to the shrine, and also we'll get our first Bell of Awakening by taking on the boss there. So that's what's in store for the next one. But as we stand now, we're hitting the half hour, so I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If this was helpful or gave you any information, or you just enjoyed watching it, please feel free to give the video a like and maybe drop a comment down below. We've talked about a couple of topics today, things like, you know, quality, rolling, heavy roads, different kind of builds. If you guys have any comments or feedback, you want to see anything here put up specifically on the channel, a couple of guides, please let me know. You know, drop those comments down below. And if you want to kind of catch up with that and keep watching this content as we go through, please feel free to subscribe to the channel as well, guys. But until next time, I want to appreciate and thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.